You've got choices to make, and if you make the right choice for a Labour government, that has to be based on one golden rule. Every time there's a difficult moment, you have to say to the people who've got the most, you are going to contribute the most.
Dave, can you talk me through the motion that you have tabled joint with Unite?
Well, we've put a motion together that's composited, Unite and CWU, two different motions, but saying essentially the same things, and then you bring them together. And it's about making sure that Labour has a different economic approach to austerity. It's about reversing the winter fuel allowance decision, which we cannot support in any shape or form. And it's also about ensuring that there is investment going forward, and that we don't get into a position where the fiscal rules, which we believe should be relaxed, prevent proper investment in the infrastructure of the country, in our public services, because what we're adamant about is you can't grow the economy without investment. And we see that different from day-to-day borrowing, and we all understand the position the Tories have left us in. But if you want to get out of that position and grow the economy, you have to leave room to invest in the infrastructure of the country.
And during Rachel Reeves' speech today, she actually said that it was one of her key pledges was to reinvest in public services. Have you heard any of this?
Look,
had conversations with her?
I actually thought that the speech was quite powerful. And I think one of the things she touched on today, which I haven't heard from a Labour minister in power for a long time, is that it's not just about creating wealth, it's about how you distribute wealth. Now, if that continues to be the line that they're taking, because what we got in the UK, as you know, is a dysfunctional wealth distribution system. So the people who create all the wealth, the hard work that goes into it, they never get rewarded. What we've got is an extractive model that only the elite kind of benefit from. And you can't grow an economy, you can't grow productivity on that basis. So I think she offered a very different direction on her economic approach and her objectives and these missions. So that was welcome, and there's no doubt about it. She clearly is going to be a formidable Chancellor of the Exchequer. Contrast that to the Tories, whose whole economic strategy was founded on austerity, low wages, grotesque levels of inequality. I think we will see a different approach, but where we disagree and continue to disagree and will campaign against is the decision to cut the winter fuel allowance.
Would you agree with the right-wing press that she is kowtowing to you, her union paymasters?
Well, I don't see how they could come to that view. I don't think that it's about that. I think it's about what's right, what's wrong, and it's about making sure that you do the right things. And no one could accuse her of that when she's made a decision that we don't agree with. And what should happen is you have a debate like we hope will take place here this week, and that decision is honoured by the party, by the government, and we're going to continue to campaign against that. I think that when you do a speech like that for a day or so, everybody's on that speech. Everybody will listen to that. They'll pick the various different bits out of it, and I think they will draw a contrast between what she said and what the Tories have done. But for millions of pensioners in this country, once you go back to the normal world that they live in, they will be worrying about that cut in winter fuel allowance. And for people who are essentially earning around $12,000 through their state pension, that is not right. And we don't even think it's good economics. We think that there are ways that if you look at the economic position, even the financial black hole, it is entirely possible to tax wealth in different ways that wouldn't have meant she had to do that when she's going to save about 1.4 billion. She says they won't save 1.4 billion on it because at the same time they're encouraging pension credit, so that's going to close that gap.
But was that not a softening on the decision? Because it did take a couple of days for them to say that they actually would like to encourage people to get onto pension credit. Is that not almost like a soft U-turn?
It may have been a slight softening of it, but it's not the right choice still. This is not complicated. I think sometimes with economics, people get into this place that only experts know. But it's actually quite simple. You've got choices to make, And if you make the right choice for a Labour government, that has to be based on one golden rule, that every time there's a difficult moment, you have to say to the people who've got the most, you are going to contribute the most. And that is the principle that should be a fiscal rule in itself, that Labour didn't do when they cut the winter fuel allowance. So, it's back to where we were. I think it was a good speech. I think it was a powerful speech for the future. And there was more said today about wealth distribution than I've heard from a Chancellor for decades. So that was a good part. But now let's campaign. Let's get that bit that they've made a mistake on put right. And let's hope that, we can then look forward to a sort of brighter future, which I thought she was really powerful about, what she believes in. And that was a contrast, there's no doubt about it. She will adopt a different economic approach. It's a shame that the government made that decision when there were other ways of dealing with that particular position.
Does it suggest that perhaps the dwindling influence of the unions and the Labour Party at the moment, that you have to table a motion rather than perhaps being consulted before the decision was originally made?
That's always been the way. You don't do it via them coming to you saying, is it all right? There's obviously conversations. That's why we get an opportunity through our affiliation to engage in the democratic processes of the Labour Party. So I don't think that's the problem. And actually, a Labour government that's going to be successful, you do have to listen. You do have to recognise, as we have to listen sometimes. We don't get everything right. We don't come here saying that every decision the trade union makes is the only answer. And then you find a way forward. And let's hope that through the democratic processes that can still play out of this conference, that we're going to be able to do that.
Can you talk to me about the potential takeover bid for Royal Mail? What are you doing to protect those workers during that?
Well, we've moved a motion today, which we believe will be accepted unanimously in the hall. It was a really good debate, where we said we welcome the decision of the government to call in the takeover bid by the Czech billionaire Daniel Kretinsky. But we want the government to go further. We want guarantees that in sort of contractual obligations that the government, and if this bid were to go through with the owners of the EP group, that there can't be asset stripping. And there's a number of ways that you can put that, hopefully in a legally binding agreement, that protects the workers against asset stripping, which is our big concern, that there's going to be proper investment in the infrastructure and in the workforce. These are things that we want to talk about, that the universal service is protected. So another thing we said in the motion was that we can't leave the decision on the universal service with Ofcom, who have actually brought about the demise of Royal Mail by some of the decisions they've taken, where they always favour promoting competition, even in a letters market that was declining. They carried on trying to do that. And they've not delivered Ofcom on their main obligation, which is to protect the USO. So we want the government, and you certainly can't allow Ofcom and Royal Mail, which is a failed leadership, who have destroyed the service, you can't allow them to make that decision. So we're saying the government has to make that decision in consultation with the workforce, in consultation with customers. We also asked for a different model, business model, a new model. We pointed out the damage that privatisation has done to Royal Mail. There's been no investment in Royal Mail for years since privatisation. There's been no innovation. And what it's done, it's just rewarded shareholders at the expense of the workforce, and it's rewarded a management team that have failed under any standard. And that can't be right.